This is the best of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, number 2. Let's do this.
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to the best of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, number 2. Today we'll be looking back on previous interviews and featured bands such as The Challenge, Fossil Youth, and Nights Like Thieves. But to kick off the episode, here's a clip from episode number 11 with Life Lessons.
Did you find out if it was poison ivy that mark under your chin? You didn't know how it got there. Just a blemish on your perfect skin. We never meant to let go. We just like to pretend that we're not scared of the future. You're just as broken as I am, and that comforts me in ways you could never see. This is not who I'm supposed to be, and I'm not sure what you see in me. You never tell me what you think. You'll keep that to yourself, so tell me what you would. Am I a knight in shining armor or a boy that doesn't leave you alone? I'll make the drive every day if I have to, if you let me. So while we lay in bed for the first time in a long time, I know we win again. Just shut your mouth and try to capture it. All I can think is I hope this is not the last time. In the past these moments have been too good to last. Let me forget it. I know I said I'm not coming back. This is not who I'm supposed to be, and I'm not sure what you see in me. You never tell me what you think. You'll keep that to yourself, so tell me what you would. Am I a knight in shining armor or a boy that doesn't leave you alone? I'll make the drive every day if I have to, if you let me. The seasons change here in seconds. Petals lose on their color. I'm just too tired to protest. You change in ways that I don't get, but I'll learn to accept that. You're not the shy girl I used to know. You're not the shy girl I used to know. You're not the shy girl I used to know. If you're a flower and I'm a tree, you'll never grow at the same pace as me. I just think while you live in the moment, I never stop soaking it and enjoying it.
What part of Oklahoma are you in, and is there earthquakes there? Or like, have you
Yeah.
guys done it? Yeah?
We're all pretty much located in Oklahoma City. Josh lives in Muskogee, which is over by Tulsa in the eastern part of the state. But the rest of us are kind of spread out around the Oklahoma City area. And they've woken me up a couple of times. In our old house, I was just laying in bed one morning, like on a day off from work, and I felt like my bed vibrating, and I felt like the house shaking. And then there was another time where my roommate and I, Caden actually, our singer, we were like in the living room at our house watching football, and we heard like a loud bang, like a huge thud, and it sounded like somebody had like driven their truck into the side of our house or something. But it was just an earthquake, and it just went with like one really big bang, and then it was over. But that's not something I really like ever experienced until I was like 20 years old, like being from here.
Right.
It's just been really new because of all the fracking that's been going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, out here, I grew up with earthquakes. I would remember in the middle of the night here and there, but it's pretty rare. It's not a big deal. Or your dog will kind of go crazy for a second, and then all of a sudden you'll feel that shake. But yeah, I heard that statistic. It kind of blew my mind, and I was like,
yeah,
I didn't realize that Oklahoma is actually past California.
That's nuts.
I know. So I'm really curious. What Pruitt? What is he gonna do now that he is officially? I'm pretty sure he was
He's
nominated.
confirmed.
He was confirmed. Yeah, so he's in. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I imagine it's gonna be just a dismantling of the EPA slowly.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. So what other things about the Trump presidency intrigue you or frighten you or make you optimistic? I don't.
There's a lot that is intriguing and also a lot that's frightening, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's so much. I was just trying to I hadn't seen the news today because I've been running around doing errands and band practice all day, so I haven't looked, and I was scared to open up Twitter today and look for what was going on. But yeah, it seems like every day there's something new. Like the travel ban, the immigration restrictions that he's proposing. I'm really intrigued by the issue, the Russia issue.
Yes, me too.
But I just am not quite because the evidence hasn't been released, I guess, from the FBI or whatever what actually happened. It's hard to really know what went down, but it definitely looks fishy, and that's pretty upsetting.
It almost seems like, from standing back from afar, it's kind of like the intelligence community, or people now they're referring to it as the deep state. They're kind of slowly leaking information on Trump, and it seems really odd because it almost paints him out to look like he's an enemy of the very people he said he was going to fight to get in there. So it almost looks like it gives him validation to his followers. And I think they're just trying to paint him with anything on the Russia thing. But like you said, the travel ban, his narcissistic views. There's so many other things that we could take him down with. Why are we focusing on Russia?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, I guess the issue of legitimacy is super important. So if it did appear that there was some meddling or something going on, then that's really important. But it is really worrisome that he seems the other day, he referred to the press as the enemy of the people, which is check that off the are you living under an autocrat checklist.
No, I totally agree. Once he goes after the press is just ridiculous.
It's absurd.
And they had a when he was who was he with? He was with I think it was Benjamin Netanyahu. He's doing a press conference. He answered two questions. One from townhall.com, which is a right wing website, and then the other was from Pat Robertson's organization. What is it? Christian Broadcasting Network. Those were the two reporters he took questions from. I was just oh my gosh.
This is how this is supposed to work. It's weird because I'm trying to I feel like I can understand rationally what happened in the election that got us to this point. I feel like I have an idea of this is what was going on. This is where the mistakes were and the kind of perfect storm that led to the election. Yeah. But I still feel like I haven't quite been able to actually process and understand how we got to this point. You know what I mean?
So you're not the only one who turns on the news and be like, wait, this is reality?
Yeah, it's
I do that at least a few times a week, man.
It's a really bad episode of Celebrity Apprentice is what it is.
It really is. It's you've seen the movie Idiocracy, right?
A long time ago.
Okay, it's definitely time to revisit that.
Is it going to be a little too close to reality?
Oh, it really makes you it was totally satire and a joke when it first came out, but the longer, I think it's been out for 10 years now. You go back and watch it more recently now, and it's oh wow, that could be us. Yeah. It's definitely interesting with the whole celebrity idea and just how he's more, that was kind of the same with Obama, but Obama at least was more well spoken.
Yeah, and it's this transition's also been very weird because I disagreed with Obama on several of his policies.
Me too. Yeah.
it was, we were on like the same side of the spectrum, more or less. Even with the things I disagreed with him on, I felt like he was, competent and reasoned and intelligent, and that he would, think things through. And it seems like almost ridiculous to think that that would be something that we would miss from a leader, is just like the ability to like think through a problem and, be rational and analytical about it.
That was Life Lessons. And up next from episode number 24, we have The Challenged. Here, check them out.
I've watched shows like Bill Maher and stuff where he says, super liberals or super progressives are kind of being problematic on this vote. But if you look at the numbers, that's not actually true. I mean, Hillary Clinton won by over 3 million votes. And where were most of those votes? I mean, that's like on the coasts, New York, California, Washington. So where all the super liberals are kind of concentrated, I think most people took the common sense approach and were like, even if I'm a Bernie guy, I'm going to go with Hillary. You know, I don't know if there was that rebellious kind of anti-Hillary vote. I think if you look at the numbers where she lost was the swing states where there was a lot of independent voters. I mean, there were polls from just a couple of years ago where like half the country was independent, you know, so you've got to think she probably lost in most of the states where people were kind of on the cuff, you know, where am I going to go with Hillary? Am I going to go with Trump? So I don't know so much that the Green vote or, you know, people being as they're referred to as Bernie-crats affected to it, because she did get 3 million more votes, mainly on the coast, on these super liberal states. So
yeah, I would be one of the Bernie-crats. I mean, I voted for Jill Stein merely as mostly a protest vote because I'm here in California. So, like, you
how
said,
dare you?
Yeah, you know, but like out here in California, it's like the state is gonna go blue no matter what. So.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, when I hear, you know, I'm a big like Bill Maher fan. I watch his show, and for the past couple of weeks, he's been kind of reaming super progressive people. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that narrative is true, that the liberals cost, you know, I think Democrats kind of have to own this as a loss, you know.
And they're not, and that's the problem, really.
Yeah. I mean, I was a huge Bernie guy, but when it came down to it, I voted Clinton. Like, I mean, it was a no-brainer, you know. So I don't know where this narrative comes from.
And I will say, in New York, we have the luxury of voting for the same candidate through a different party. So I voted for Clinton through the Working Families Party, sort of give them a leg up. And I think that's a great idea. I think more states should have that, where multiple parties can nominate the same candidate, and you could vote through that party specifically.
Okay, yeah, here you have to either be registered a Democrat or specifically no party preference. So if you were Green or Libertarian or whatever, you had to vote in the Green or Libertarian primary. The only people who could switch over, it was no party preference. That's in the primary here. So yeah, I mean, they have to make it as complicated as possible, of course.
That's how I meant in the general election, multiple parties can nominate the same candidate. In the primaries, I think those are still.
Oh yeah.
You have.
Well, yeah, in the general election, yeah, there's you can vote for really whoever.
I mean, my line of thinking was there are two realistic choices. You know, if you are willing to dig your heels in and vote to give a third party 10% for federal matching, then go for it. But like, I didn't feel like that was that election. And, you know, I understand I did not vote for Hillary Clinton in the primaries. She was definitely not my candidate. But considering the choices and the ramifications of that, I felt like it was my responsibility to vote against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ended up coming back and doing that. Also, what you're saying about how Hillary lost, not only she lose the swing states, but it was also the Rust Belt. You know, that was really what did her in for the loss, was the Rust Belt and the working, that, you know, white working middle class Reagan Democrat that the Democrats abandoned.
Those are the same states that Bernie did very well in.
Exactly. And that's the whole, like, you know, the whole meme, Bernie would have won meme, you know. And
yeah, I don't know. I certainly, I'm not going to make that claim that he would have won. I would have, it would have been a better campaign.
Yeah. I don't know.
Campaign for me.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have won, but it would have been a clear choice between two different directions for America, you know, right or left, opposed to like the same old shit versus some chaotic new path.
Yeah. And you know, and I think a lot of people are discounting the fact that I think Bernie Sanders had a pretty successful primary. If you look at Clinton's platform when the primary started compared to when she hit the general election, a lot of that was the progressive platform, and a lot of that was due to pressure of the fact that she was losing votes to a pretty energetic Bernie Sanders base. And, you know, I hate to tie that to Bernie Sanders because that base was sort of looking for anybody to agree with them. Mm-hmm. And I think he stepped in at the right time he's been saying the right thing in my eyes for, since the early 2000s.
Geez, since like the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I typically would go home and a roommate and I would just watch C-SPAN for hours at a time when we were in college. And you can debate whether or not that was good for us social lives or not. But, I would light up when he would pop in and talk, because I was like, I didn't know there was a guy at the time I was in college. I didn't know there was a guy that thought like me, that was not only a successful politician, but able to shape policy in such a high level of government. So that was really the turning point for me, was Bernie Sanders and a handful of other guys, watching them on TV saying like, I didn't know. I thought this was a section of politics that Americans sort of like brushed to the side, but it's good to know that there wasn't just a college kid thing to say that college should be free. There wasn't just a college and all these other things that we should be taking care of as a society. So it was great to hear. I think he had a great run, and I think he had a lot of influence on it. And the trick now is just to keep that momentum going, to continue to influence the Democratic Party. Every day is another news story about how Trump and his cabinet are just really bad at hiding things. But that's not why the media sucks. Like, there's so many better reasons why the media sucks.
Exactly. Yes.
What was it? The one of the head guys of CBS who came out last year saying, why is Trump getting this much more coverage than Bernie? And he goes, well, look at our ratings. And then it doesn't take a lot of research to look up that CBS was directly benefiting from the super PACs and donating to the super PACs. So, I mean, you're always going to have that weird connection between, corporate politics in the media and money going back and forth between both of them. So on Trump's, from Trump's side, it's really easy to say, hey, look at these guys. They're not doing the right job. And then it's very easy to point the finger at them and kind of be truthful about the corporate stuff and totally discredit them, even when they are saying probably honest things, or, if they're being insightful on something, it's pretty easy to discredit them. And he's done that. You got to admit, he's done that pretty successfully.
Exactly. And that's that fake news thing. Like, and everyone gets so mad about the fake news, but if you go back and remember, it was CNN was the one who started the fake news, and then Trump took it and flipped it right back at him, and it just stuck on them.
Yeah. So that was a specific story about how there were a group of hackers in Macedonia.
Yes.
Flooding social media with literally fake news, like made up stories.
Mm-hmm.
CNN reported that, and then Trump, I think it was like day 5 in the White House, had already co-opted that term and was like blasting people in the briefing room, calling them fake news.
Yeah, was it after he got elected? He co-opted that. I thought it was like a few days before the election. But it was right. It was right on the election, though. You're right.
Yeah.
And it was right after they used it. He co-opted the term and he used it successfully, like for himself, like you said, which is like fuck. That's not good, because now he just gave him another weapon.
Is he an idiot or an idiot savant? I don't know.
At sometimes, man, and then you watch him and like I'm always like, dude, he's just a big child.
Yeah,
maybe he's just like acting like a big child.
He's the Tommy Wiseau of politics. No one will ever know.
Sometimes it's better not to know, 'cause words always have penalties. When your mind grabs for straws, it only picks out the better things. And somewhere very far away, depending on us. Now we will have to strive to something bigger than ourselves. Now we'll have to try just a little bit harder. Push the boundaries as our decision runs down. Revealing only our weaknesses. Revealing only our weaknesses. It's better not to dream. This scene is science fictional. The situation's as it stands, and the characters are moldable. Written in entire circumstance. Living all things by promises.
That was The Challenged, and up next from episode number 23, we have Fossil Youth. Here we go.
Drop more in my shrapnel in my side. I was shot by lightning, torn up by pride. I only did what I thought was best. As time passes by, I try to forget the eyes that gleamed into mine every night. But I can't. You're the shrapnel in my side. I don't wanna cut you out, but right now that's best. 'Cause you need a break from my stress, and I need to learn a lesson. I should have never let you get away. I should have never let you get away.
The old people that know that their votes do matter just keep voting. Same old white guys keep running through Congress, the Senate, the White House. There's obvious evidences of, diversity and stuff like that in small doses. But I think everybody can see that the main overlying picture is one of an old white male authority.
Yeah, well,
And-
typically it's, I think what you're meaning is it's pushing the, like, white patriarchy, perception or worldview, even if the deliverer could be, of another race, such as, like, Clarence Thomas or something.
yeah.
A lot. Even though he may be, African American or black, he still advocates for policies that help the white male class for
Yeah.
the most part. So yeah,
It's true. That's very true. And unfortunately, a lot of that falls into the two-party political system, where if you're not part of one of the two parties, you basically have zero chance of success.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, if you don't align with those party politics, or you don't walk the line with the rest of your members, you risk being outed, having somebody have more funding than you when you run next time, and you just basically risk your entire political career if you go against the tide of what everyone else is trying to push. So
Definitely. So, okay, yeah, that totally leads me into another question I wanted to get to you. So a lot of people, when they do get cynical or jaded, and I really think the whole voting thing that started with the Gen Xers, kind of, the even so, I think like even as old as like 35-ish and younger, maybe even 40, some of the people just don't want to vote or don't believe in it. So people either take two routes. They're kind of like, I'm not even going to vote, like just whatever, or they're like, I'm going to vote third party, or I'm going to write in Mickey Mouse, or, they do some sort of, people call it a quote unquote protest vote. So how do you, we know you think people shouldn't just not vote. So how do you feel about voting for a third party or a protest vote?
I mean, if you're going to do a protest vote, the write-in is basically throwing your vote in the trash. Now, I don't believe that voting for a third party is like throwing your vote in the trash. Voting for a third party, especially in a state like Oklahoma, which has been red for the past, almost a century, and will probably be red for a very long time. Voting for a third party in that instance, since I would normally vote blue or, independent or something like that, but voting for that third party, if we could find a way to get enough of a percentage to get even one of those third parties onto the platform to present their ideas and fully express the options that Americans don't have to go with side A or side B. There's more than two colors to the political system. I think that would really start pointing things in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And I would have to say out here in California, it's the exact same, yet the opposite. Because, the Senate in the House is completely, it's a majority democratically held House and Senate. So anything they want to get through, the governor will just sign off on. So there's no opposition party here whatsoever, just like out there. So do you think that voting and pushing third parties in states like ours that are super one way would be more efficient than pushing them in a state that's like more of a purple state, like a Colorado or like a Wisconsin or something?
Yeah, well, those states, you're really walking thin wire on that, whereas some of those like Rust Belt states and stuff like that, the difference between a Democratic or a Republican vote for the Electoral College can come down to a few thousand votes. Mm-hmm, so at that point, you're risking a lot to put that technical protest vote, as we'll call it, to try and voice your stand, where the protest is meaningful, but at the same time you're risking that chance of somebody else winning that you would rather option B win than option A, but you still write in the protest vote and then option A wins anyway because you didn't vote for option B, Mm-hmm. I think that's just another thing. If more people voted in general, I think it would help the political system immensely. Even people just registered to vote. Only around 50% of registered voters actually voted this last election cycle. And only, I think, a little less than 50% of the American public is actually registered.
Yeah, exactly.
So that comes out to probably around
30%. Yeah.
Quarter of the population actually vote. Uh-huh. Whereas versus in France, they just had their election in which Emmanuel Macron beat Le Pen. I hope I'm pronouncing that wrong.
You got it.
But they found 75% of their population votes, and that was kind of a low turnout for them.
Yeah.
And if you can only imagine, if 75% of the American population voted, how many things would be different?
It would be, it would be totally different.
Would Hillary have beaten Donald Trump? I definitely don't think Donald Trump would have won, considering the fact that he already lost by the popular vote. Mm-hmm. And that was with only 25% of Americans voting, right. Even though a majority of Americans don't stand with Donald Trump. especially for anybody that's not registered already, voting then for them instantly becomes a two-part process.
Yes.
Well, make sure I register in time. Then I have to remember to take time off to go down to vote for the primary. Then after the primary is over, I have to make sure that I have time off during whatever time of the day to go for the general election, and it's definitely a difficult process. And I mean, I'm lucky to live in this sense, but I live in a small town where voting, I drive to the nearest, usually a church, honestly. And I walk in and out, and my vote takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But I know there's a lot of places, especially like where you're from, California, New York, and busy places like that, where you can go to vote, and it can take 2+ hours.
It all depends.
Just, through with people's jobs and things like that.
It's also here, it was with more of like the lower income neighborhoods would have long lines and less polling booths than the upper income.
You're required to go to whatever polling booth is closest to you, which I understand for, registration and efficiency reasons. But at the same time, what's stopping you from going to a polling booth that's next to your work that you can go at during lunch?
Yes.
That's near your church or near where you drop your kid off at school, or just the accessibility to voting in general. I definitely think should be easier, which I can't remember who it was, but someone's introduced into the Senate the idea of making the
national holiday,
federal holiday.
Yeah.
So whatever. Have time off and the entire day to assess themselves, get them ready for material, look over everything they need to, and take that time of the day to go vote and then go home.
I'm pretty sure that was Bernie Sanders. I mean, I don't even know who else would even propose that at this point.
Yeah,
I don't even know who would.
But I hate to just jump.
No, I'm not sure, but I know exactly. Someone proposed that, though.
Yeah, no, and I definitely think things like that and just streamlining the voting process in general. And like you said, the fact that you have to register is strange in the first place, considering when you turn 18, you have to register for the draft.
Right.
So why on a big voting registration card,
Well, yeah, we all know that the military-industrial complex is way more important than having people vote.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially in the eyes of the higher powers. But that's a completely different podcast.
I've watched smoke rise from your backyard. I've watched you cut that oak tree down. Burning sensation lit my lungs as we watch the embers hit the ground. Where did we go wrong? When did we go now? I wish I was a whisper in the wind. Maybe that you'd be listening. Then I wondered what I'd have to do to get out of this situation, and to cut out all sense of hesitation, and to put a nail in the coffin and bury me in the dirt. I wish I was a whisper in the wind. Maybe that you'd be listening. Silencers and scissor tones that cut our lips with every word. Every night I lay awake. Every night I lay awake.
That was Fossil Youth, and up next from episode number 20, we have Nights Like Thieves. Here, check them out.
For me, it seems so obvious, and like again, I can't. It's hard to wrap my mind around. It's like it doesn't take like a whole lot of logical steps to get to. Oh, the media is owned by the corporation, and they have, they want to keep their money funneling to them, so they're going to buy the government. It's only a two-step process. I mean, they pay for the government. I mean, with the whole Debbie Wasserman Schultz thing, where she was calling up, it was the Morning Joe, and saying, hey, you guys Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, and she's like, hey, you guys need to be nicer to us. I'm going to talk to your boss and this and that. It's like, it's not a lot of mental gymnastics you have to do to get to that. Like, it's pretty fairly obvious. I don't count myself amongst the smartest people in the world, for sure, and I have a high school education. I went to a little college, but high school was, the last that I finished, and it just seems so simple to me. I just don't understand how people can't make these connections.
Yeah, I think it's just the critical thinking, and that's kind of like something they don't even teach in school. So that's kind of something that people just get.
True, true.
So you just might be just a natural critical thinker, and then once you got into politics, it kind of opened you up. Because I've been watching politics since 2001.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, really, 9/11 is what I was like, wow, and
that's kind of what turned my eye to politics as well. But I was still pretty naive about it. I mean, I was always like, oh, the conspiracy theories. Oh, it was an inside job and this and that. But.
Yeah, but even the official story's nuts. And then, going into Iraq, under false pretenses. And then basically that created ISIS. And then Obama got in there and didn't roll back anything Bush did. He just extended it. So it's kind of like, so that's why I've been watching this shit show just unfold for, 16, 17 years now. And and I've seen, and now I kind of watched people are really getting awake is basically what I'm saying, and they like you said, 4 years. Yeah.
And that's where Bernie Sanders can be credited. Like he was the one, because he wasn't, when they were doing the primaries and stuff like that. I mean, he wasn't attacking Hillary Clinton, like in the traditional sense that politicians usually attack each other in order to get their party's nomination or whatever. He would point out facts.
Yes. Yeah.
And then people go, oh, that's a fact. That can be proven. Here's the proof. And,
Right.
and here, whatnot,
And they're like, oh my God, why are you being so mean to Hillary? You need to tone it down.
This Bernie bro narrative and all that stuff. You're just like, really? I mean, like, who falls for this stuff? And it's amazing, too, because, like, my buddy who I was telling you about lives in North Carolina. Now, we went to high school together out here in California. And he was more like me back in high school. He was very rebellious towards the institutions and the political and all that stuff. And now, again, like I said, I post something that's slightly critical of the DNC or, whatever's going on right now with them. And I get a fucking, 3-paragraph response from him just constantly attacking my character, not even anything on the issue of what I was talking about. It's just like, oh, you're so dumb, you don't know this. I'd be like, okay. So it's weird because he went the opposite direction from what I did, because back in high school I was more like, oh, hey, I'm gonna vote against along party lines because that's what I know, and I'm naive about it. I don't have the information. This is back in the 90s when the internet didn't really have that much information on it.
Yeah, I think everyone was voting party lines forever. I mean, pretty much forever. And now people are they're so boxed in. I mean, but not like recently, like you said. And that's being the DNC screwing over Bernie woke up a bunch of the progressives. A few years ago, it was really Occupy. What I've noticed, I think Occupy really woke people up. And the craziest thing is when the Tea Party first started, it was all about taxes and bailing out the Wall Street bailout. That was what it was all about. And I was like, oh, wow, the right is pissed off about Wall Street being bailout and the left is starting to wow, this could be a movement. And then I remember I went to two Tea Party movements, and the first one they were just talking about taxes and shit, and then the second one they're talking about how something about like states' rights and how if states want to repeal the civil acts amendment, that's they should. And I was like, whoa, what happened? They got co-opted, and I think people really, the left, the
well, they were funded by the Koch brothers, right?
No, they were AstroTurf. At first,
really?
The Tea Party was a completely organic movement by the right. However, it was co-opted by the Koch brothers and the rich Heritage Foundation, the far right wing.
Which gave us our Obamacare, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so it was really interesting though how they got co-opted, and then the left, they got just shut down, and then the DNC didn't want to listen to them, and they've been losing ever since basically 2010.
That's the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, that's what I think is also mind blowing is how much loss they've suffered since then, since Obama took office. I mean, it's an insane. I mean, they've lost every level of government.
Yeah, in every election too.
And federal, it's insanity.
And they still put in Perez. How do you feel about Tom Perez? Like,
when Keith Ellison, who again, I don't really think Keith Ellison is that progressive. I mean, he's got a couple of ideas that are slightly progressive, but I mean, he got a lot of support because Bernie backed him because, again, Keith Ellison backed Bernie during the primaries.
Exactly.
I'm not even sure what that was really about. I don't know why Keith Ellison, because he's really not that progressive. Again, I think it was just kind of a...
Bernie's a pragmatic at the end of the day.
Yes and no. And it's weird because his whole message was, now's not the time to be pragmatic.
Yeah, and then
then you became pragmatic. It's like,
I know.
Like, I love Bernie, but there's some things that are a bit confusing, and I know he wants to like play within the confines of the rules and whatnot and how it works, but I mean,
he has to realize that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't work.
He had the momentum.
Yep.
The DNC could not have stopped him. The Republicans couldn't stop. That obviously couldn't stop him. I mean, shit, there's probably more Republicans that vote for Bernie than Republicans now.
Yeah. I think if it was Bernie versus Trump, I think if nothing else, it would have had two clear paths on which direction America wants to go.
Right.
It would be totally clear.
It would be, exactly. It would have been like 1930s, like, like who's what side you're,
Otherwise, on a we have an establishment vibe, and let's put up a 100% establishment candidate against some crazy,
against some nut job who won.
Pretends to be anti-establishment.
Exactly.
Who's totally with the establishment.
How could you possibly think that Donald Trump was going to be anti-establishment?
Let's set it off tonight.
Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.